Hey everyone, thanks for coming over to my YouTube channel, the Supply Chain and Logistics Hub. And today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about brokers, a day in the life of what a broker is. I've also seen a lot of discussion on LinkedIn about, broker transparency and what does that mean? We'll get into that. In addition to, shippers saying, oh, we don't really use brokers, and where, I myself was a broker for about 5 months when I first started in my career, and I do see a lot of benefit in the role, in the profession, and where they can really help shippers as well as carriers. So let's kind of get into it a little bit. But when you think of a broker, okay, really all they're doing is they own no assets in the transportation world. They're simply the middleman. They're trying to bring together a shipper and a carrier to move a load and get paid, right? So one of the experiences I had in my career was I was able to do that for about 5 months. And a lot of what that was simply answering the phone, developing relationships with carriers, bidding on lanes in terms of pricing exercises, conducting RFP cycles for shippers, and got a lot of knowledge about the vocabulary, the vernacular that carriers use, what they are kind of looking for in terms of the ideal shipper. So really kind of getting a sense to understand what carriers are looking for, okay? And we've been in this freight recession, for those of you who follow, for well over 2 years, okay? It's been especially hard on the brokers, on the carriers. I've seen instances where carriers, think brokers are making all this money. And what's kind of transpired is this discussion, right, on LinkedIn, where you're having these debates about, well, brokers are charging too much money. And simply brokers, what they do is they have their margins, right? And every broker has a different cost structure, if you will. But, my whole, I guess the way I look at it is if a carrier is going to sit there and say, well, the broker's making too much money, I'm not going to take that freight. Well, if that carrier really needs to move their asset, right, and every minute those wheels don't turn, they're losing money, are they really not going to take that load? Because again, would you rather try and move the truck and make a little something versus make nothing and then have all those costs and expenses pile up? So that's one area that I'm a little, I'm curious what your feedback might be from other people. Like, do you guys really agree that, brokers are making too much money and that carriers shouldn't haul for them and that they should be more transparent? Because again, some of these publicly traded brokers, if you go online and they release their quarterly earnings, you can get an average of what they're making. Okay. I mean, you're obviously not going to get load by load, but to me, it's, hey, you have a shipper that's here, you have a carrier that's here. It might not be ideal. It might not be the best paying load, but it's going to get your truck back in position to where you need to be. And a lot of these brokers, right, a lot of these carriers are using these brokers just as backhauls to get back to their home base. So again, you're not going to make as much on a backhaul as you would on your head haul. So that's one area. And I would say that, for a lot of these carriers, these owner operators, that they're one, person show. They don't have the sales staff. What happens when they lose business? What happens when that lane is taken away from them? Again, maybe through no fault of their own, but someone comes in cheaper. How are they going to find another shipment to supplement that lane they were servicing, right? And this is where I think brokers can come in as well. I would also tell you that for a lot of these companies, these brokers, excuse me, they invest a lot of money in technology. And I have been a direct beneficiary of that technology when I was on the shipper side, as well as on the transportation side, where I was able to study this data and tell a story to a shipper about, their business, where they could make improvements. There's also, I know several software companies, I don't know if they're SaaS operators, but where carriers can then look at some of their data and make sense of their business, back office functions, those types of things. Because a lot of these carriers, right, they're on the road all the time. They don't maybe have the time to run the business or sell and try and pick up new business, right? So they rely on these brokers to kind of fill that void within their business. So, I would tell you that I think both can work together, both kind of need each other. And the other point I would make is for a lot of these shippers that I've heard, we don't use brokers. We don't like to use brokers. Well, what I can tell you is when you have your asset carriers hauling your freight, and if there's a demand and you need to ship more product out to customers, or you need to pick up raw materials because your production's increasing, and your carrier base doesn't have enough trucks, I got news. They are going to go out and they're going to broker those loads because they don't have enough drivers. They don't have enough equipment to move your freight. They're going out to the market to secure additional capacity. So you might not like it, but that's just kind of the way that the industry works. And again, broker is not a dirty word. It's not a bad word. They do serve a function and a purpose. And the carriers need them because sometimes they're looking for freight and the brokers need the carriers. So they both really rely on each other to coexist, if that makes sense. But as a shipper, I can tell you, having used brokers, having used asset-based carriers, are there pros and cons? Absolutely. But I would tell you that don't discount using a broker. They have relationship with carriers. They might have carriers that really want to service your lane that could do it better. They could maybe do it cheaper. They could do it more consistently. They know your receivers and understand, it's not just as simple as just picking up and dropping that off. There's certain nuances at that receiver. So I just don't want that to be discounted. And again, I really think that from everything I've seen and being a broker myself, for a short period of time, there is a function, there is a purpose. They do serve a need in that marketplace. So that's a little bit about, brokerage, what I think about it, the benefits of it, and where I think they can certainly add value in the marketplace. So thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe and like. And in the next video, I want to talk a little bit about what it's like to be an account manager within a brokerage. Because when I first started out, again, I did a rotation where for 5 months I was a broker, and then the next 5-6 months I was an account manager. And then ultimately the company decided where to put me. So I want to share a little bit about what that looked like. So thanks for watching, guys.